Okay, law of cosines. So our last lesson was on the law of sines, which is pretty straightforward, pretty easy setup. You just set up a proportion, sine of A over A, sine of B over B, or you can use C, whatever, and you just cross multiply and divide. Very simple. Sometimes you have to take the extra step to do the inverse function, but it's not too complicated. Law of cosines, kind of nasty. Okay? And if you notice here, use only as a last resort when nothing else works. And only when it's not a right triangle. And you're going to see why. So there's going to be a lot of reading over the next couple pages. I'm going to hit pause just so you can just read. And then you can continue when you're done reading the pages. There it is. Law of cosines. A squared equals B squared plus C squared. Variation of the Pythagorean theorem, you can see that in there. Minus 2 times side B times side C times the cosine of A. And then we can, take the square root and then solve for the cosine. And the cosine of A is equal to B squared plus C squared minus A squared divided by 2BC. Okay? So, obviously, not mathematically hard to do, especially when you have a calculator. You just plug in this side and square it, plug in this side and square it, plug in this side and square it, add, subtract, and divide by 2 times those two sides. So mathematically, not really complicated, but just kind of a nasty formula. Now, when are we going to use it? When we know the two sides and the angle in between those sides. So, for example, we know this side, and that angle. All right? Or you know the measure of all three sides. So you know this, and this. That is when you're going to use cosine, law of cosines. Now, here we get to the reading part. Where did it come from? So I'm just going to hit pause. You go ahead and read this, and then continue. So hit pause, read through it, then hit play again. It continues here. So once again, go ahead and hit pause. You might want to go back to the previous screen and look at that triangle again to understand, where it comes from. You're not going to be tested on, proving this rule, but it just show you how complicated and where it came from, and there is a reason behind it. Okay, so draw a triangle. So we have A, B, C. So just, you can draw the triangle any way you want. Measured angle A is 35 degrees. B down here is 16, and C is 19. So we have our setup. We have two sides and the included angle. So this is what we're trying to find there, A. So let's write out the formula first. A equals, I'm just copying this out, I don't have it memorized. A is equal to the square root of this entire thing. B squared plus C squared minus 2BC times the cosine of A. So A equals the square root of 16 squared plus 19 squared minus 2 times 16 times 19 times the cosine of 35. Sorry, I ran out of room. So A is equal to square root, first off, 16 squared plus 19 squared is 617. That's that first number. Oopsie. Minus 2 times 16 times 19 times the cosine of A, 35. And I'm just typing that in. I just typed in, my calculator, 2 times 16 times 19 times cosine 35, which is 498.04. And now I'm going to subtract and then take the square root. Or I can just do the square root of this whole thing. Square root of 617 minus 498.04. A is equal to 10.9. So I want to hit pause and try that on your own calculator. Okay, CAT. C-A-T. A is 16. T is 20. And angle C here is 40. So I'll write the formula again, except I'm going to swap my A and C. We're trying to solve for C here. So C is equal to square root of B squared plus A squared minus 2AC times cosine of C. Sorry, that should be AB. So notice in, the difference in the original equation is these two are the other two that is not here. Okay? So if we change this to C, then this becomes AB. If we change this to B, then this would be AC. So let's plug in our numbers. C is equal to B squared Now, here's the tricky part, especially when now we go from ABC to CAT, and the next one's RED. So you need to understand what's going on with this formula. Okay? This out here is the side we're solving for. And that is going to match, we're going to take the cosine of that angle. And then all four of these pieces of information are just the other two sides. So in this case, it doesn't really matter which one's which, because it's just going to be written out and multiplied and squared and all that good stuff, and subtracted. So here's what we're solving for. So these are our two numbers that are going to go inside underneath the radical, along with this angle here. So it doesn't matter really which one you put first. So 20 squared plus 16 squared. Again, it's just the other two sides. Minus 2 times those same two numbers. And it doesn't matter the order. Times the cosine of the angle, which is 40 degrees. And now we type that in our calculator. And you can type this whole thing in. I personally like to just slow down and take it kind of step by step. So 20 squared plus 16 squared, just to see what's happening. 656 minus, and now I'm going to do 2 times 16 times 20 times cosine of 40. 490 point rounded 27. And now I'm going to take the square root of 656 minus 490.27. And C is 12.87. Now, if you type this in straight through, you'll get a slightly different answer maybe, depending on rounding. In this case, it's going to end up rounding the exact same way. Sometimes it'll round off to a different hundred spot, depending on how the numbers work out. But you can do it either way. You can type this all in one fell swoop, or you can break it down like this. No big deal. Okay, last one, RED. RED. So little r over here is 8, E down here is 20, and D is 16. Okay? Now in this case, we have all three sides. We don't have an angle. And we're trying to solve the triangle. Okay, solve the triangle. In other words, solve and find all three angles. But really, we just have to do two angles and subtract to find the third. So we're going to do this twice. Okay? So let's go for r. Cosine of r. All right? Now, this, whatever this is, that's the side we're going to subtract in the formula. So let's write the original formula first, sorry. So let's say we're going with cosine of a. That is b squared plus c squared. That's the other two sides minus that same side divided by 2 times the other two sides. Okay? So if we're doing cosine of r, well, that means we're going to use E and D first. So 20 and 16. All right? Because here's E, here's D. So it's going to be 20 squared plus 16 squared minus 8 squared over 2 times the other two sides, 20 times 16. So we type in our calculator. 20 squared plus 16 squared. And remember, do this in your calculator. Hit pause and do this in the calculator. Minus 8 squared. That's 592 divided by 2 times 20, which is 40, times 16. 640. Now we're trying to find the cosine of r. So if we don't know the angle, we do inverse. So we do second cosine, and just type in 592 divided by 640. And that gives us 22.3. So r is 22.3. Now you pick. You can find D or E, doesn't matter. So, cosine of D, we'll just do that one. So again, you're going to take the other two sides. So 8 squared plus 20 squared minus 16 squared over 2 times 8 times 20. So 8 squared, hit the wrong key, sorry, plus 20 squared minus 16 squared. That's 208. Over 2 times 8 is 16 times 20 is 320. So that's the cosine of D. So now we just do inverse cosine 208 divided by 320. And that gives us cosine of D, that's a 9, D equals 49.5. Actually, D is 49.5. Sorry. Now we just add these two. And subtract from 180. So 180 minus 71.8 is 108.2. So that means angle E, for all angles, is 108.2. These are all degrees. So again, looks nastier than it really is. We'll be practicing this. The basic concept is you add the two squares, two sides, then you're not trying to find the cosine of that angle, and subtract that matching side. And then divide by 2 times those same two sides. Whichever ones come first here are the ones we're going to do there. So it's B and C. Okay? So we'll practice.